Have you ever heard of Negro Fort? Strap in, this one's a doozy. Long story short, Negro Fort was in Florida's Panhandle. Prior to 1812, Florida was colonized by Spain, while the states north of Florida were part of the new United States and formerly colonized by the British. Why am I telling you this? Because Spanish Florida and British North America had very different approaches to and definitions of slavery and race. In the formerly British parts of the U.S., we had chattel slavery, an all-encompassing system in which Africans and their descendants were legally considered objects instead of people with no human rights. Free black people made up a very small part of our population because increasingly harsh laws discouraged and prevented many enslaved people from attaining freedom. The Spanish colonial approach was completely different. They enticed many enslaved people from the British territories to run south to Florida, where they could become free citizens and be given a gun to point at their former enslavers. All right, stay with me. So in the War of 1812, Britain invades Florida, which was still Spanish, and took a leaf out of Spain's book, offering sanctuary to any person enslaved in America who ran away and made it to the fort that they built, Fort Gadsden. They also invited Native Americans to join these self-emancipating black people. Suddenly, you have a fort staffed with over 1,000 armed Native and black people doing drills together, ready to fight America for the British. Then, in the spring of 1815, Britain signs the Treaty of Ghent and withdraws. Many of the natives leave, but some stay with the formerly enslaved to create a free, fortified military town called Negro Fort, where the black and indigenous fighters trained together daily. This made Americans even more nervous. A free town of Native and black people who had been trained by the British military and had a fully stocked fort and weapons at their disposal right on their border. So Andrew Jackson illegally orders General Gaines to invade with an army of Creek mercenaries. The American troops watched from a safe distance, while paid Creek soldiers stormed the fort, and American Navy vessels fired cannons into the fort from the river. Finally, a cannonball landed in the fort's magazine, which was full of gunpowder, and exploded it, killing hundreds inside. There were only a handful of survivors. Gaines said that the explosion was, quote, awful and the scene horrible beyond description. In an instant, lifeless bodies were stretched upon the plain, buried in the sand or rubbish, or suspended from the tops of surrounding pines.